Hello. Welcome back into the Get Invested podcast. I am your host, Jordan, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Matthias. Look, here's the thing. I gotta make a pretty serious announcement. I realize that this is the 13th episode, which means we are into what is traditionally we stop counting in months and we say some is 1 year old. So I think at this point we got to stop counting. So this is the last one, and it's an auspicious number. I know a lot of people don't like the number 13, you triskaidekaphobics out there, but since it's my birth date, the 13th, I embrace it. So we're gonna end it on the 13th. But anyways, we're happy you're here with us, whatever episode it is. Hopefully we'll have 130th and a 1300. I don't actually. That last one might be too many. I'm not sure. Anyways, Matthias, what's up, man? What's going on? That's a lot. Yeah.
Not much.
People.
I was doing a little accounting this morning, catching up, the quarter, so catching up all the books for all the properties, which is always riveting. Working some insurance stuff. You got a lender asking about insurance paperwork that hasn't come yet. So all kinds of fun over here. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, guys, I just want to assure everyone that Matthias does know that this is Q4, that we are in Q4.
Yeah.
No matter what his LinkedIn post may say, we are in Q4.
Yeah.
So, we're thinking into the year. We're looking at how we're going to boost our sales during Christmas, what kind of product we can roll out, maybe open earlier, these kinds of things.
Extended hours. It's always extended hours.
Exactly. We have already, don't worry, we've been decorated for Christmas since, football season started. We just forget Thanksgiving. Halloween, we just put under the tree. It's just a present.
Boom.
Yeah, exactly. I speaking of holidays, it is the Jewish New Year.
You just got back.
Yeah, Rosh Hashanah. Yeah, I just got back from services. For those who don't know, I'm married to a Jewish woman. Thankfully, in my opinion, she does it. She's like she's the Jewish version of the Christians who only go to church on Easter and Christmas. So that's Rosh Hashanah.
She's not Orthodox, is what you mean.
No, we're not in temple every week. It would be fine, but what I think is interesting though is we as Christians think of Judaism as older than Christianity, so we think about it as this old, historic, reverent, traditional religion. But with this Rosh Hashanah service, it's just like our contemporary services. That term, like drums and guitars and praise songs and stuff, and they take like pop songs and like put them to like words of traditional songs and stuff. So it's fun, but I gotta say I understand updating with the times. Because of the tradition I was raised in as far as church services go, it still was kind of jarring to me for not to be like really by the book traditional. So anyways. Yeah. Also, I found out that at least in the Rosh Hashanah service, I don't remember in the Yom Kippur one, but anyways, even at least in this one, they stand up and sit down as much as the Catholics. I was 2 hours of that. I was like, I don't even need to work.
Did they at least have those nice little benches for you to get on, or is it all floor?
No, so there's no kneeling. There's no kneeling.
Oh, okay.
There's no kneeling. It's just sitting and then rising, kind of like the old school Baptist. You rise to sing kind of thing. Rise to recite, those kind of things. Yeah, it's when the Torah is out or their ark is open. Anyways, yeah, I was taken aback.
I just remember whenever as a kid and we'd go to a Catholic wedding, I always thought it was pretty cool whenever we got down on because it was always like nice and padded, and you could I was like, hey, this isn't half bad. I was like, couldn't even see over the pew probably, but I just remember being like, hey, this isn't bad, because I was worried about it hurting.
Yeah,
kids in services.
Yeah, that's a modern addition. I would imagine you go to an old Catholic church, they either have it just like a piece of wood, or you can tell they've clearly like put padding on top of like 300-year-old wood, because they're like, well, these soft modern people, they're not going to be able to handle this. It's kind of like they always have like you remember the like pew cushions that like slipped in, they were clearly not part of the pew. Yeah,
they were added.
It's old school. Yeah,
for sure.
But this is it was nice though, because this was held at a Presbyterian Methodist church. I don't know, so some nice interfaith
sharing the sharing the building.
Absolutely. Yeah, cool. Very nice. So, probably, I know we're very fascinating and enthralling, but maybe we should move to the thing at hand. Now, Matthias was telling you a few things that's going on with him and with us, and it's actually to go back to that's a pretty good segue to introduce what we're going to talk about today, because we're in an interesting situation where a property is sold, we're starting a raise on another property, and we're in the negotiating a contract to purchase. So we're in like 3 different stages. So we thought this was a good opportunity, because we are currently sending out information to investors and talking to investors and putting together underwriting and stuff that we just talked about with Vivek a couple weeks ago, to go back and maybe review some of those metrics and numbers that we introduced as we introduce ourselves in the first couple of episodes. So we're going to talk about this kind of numbers you'll get in an investment summary document, some of those acronyms that we have discussed, but probably we could all use. I mean, I know I could definitely use a brush up. So we're going to go through that. We got some. Now, we have to be clear on this. The numbers we are presenting are hypothetical and are not attached to any given property. But
that's correct.
They're going to allow us to provide a visual aid of the kind of thing that we offer, what they mean, and we can talk ranges of how we actually come to real numbers that could align with these fake numbers. But, I should put just like a thing on the bottom.
Just a disclaimer.
These are not real. These are not real numbers. Yeah. I mean, there's real any numbers,
well,
but
I'm not advertising.
They are not attached to a building. The numbers are as real as any numbers, but they're not attached to any property. All right. So let's get into it. Let's dive in here, Matthias. Where do you want to start?
Let's throw up the infographic. It's kind of a big picture front thing that we show, that we talk about to investors. Like, hey, this is a great way for you to visualize what the investment projections are, basically. So I know you have one over there cooked up.
Yeah.
Basically, we can
this is the kind of thing.
This.
Yeah, you would get this if you were an investor with us and we were like, hey, here's a new thing, new possibility. You would see this in an email.
Yeah, and so we talk about kind of the high points that everybody initially cares about. There's a whole bunch more information that you should always dig into. That's always accompanied with a big PDF deck that kind of digs into all sorts of different details about a particular investment opportunity. But this is the big high level. Hey, this is what it is. So it'll have your minimum investment, the projected IRR, the preferred return. We'll get into discuss all these as we go, but I'm just going to read through it here. The preferred return, how long the investment's going to take, what you can expect in terms of payout over the life of the investment, how basically what's going to happen to your money in total, that equity multiple, how, like if you multiply that by your investment 1.8, that's the projection of how much money you're going to end up with at the end of the investment period. And then that 70-30 split talks about how basically it's called to promote how much the management team takes as kind of compensation for finding, buying, managing, and then selling or whatever is involved with the particular investment, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think just real quick, I think it'd be good to clarify before we jump into the numbers that are based on the minimum investment, maybe just again talk about how we come to the number of the minimum investment and how that actually works with our business model and our goal, our mission statement.
Mission statement. Yeah. So good question. So basically, we go. Each property is different. Each investment opportunity is going to be very different. How much money needs to be raised, how much in order to make the down payment, in order to do any improvements on the property, whatever the business plan is. There's going to be a set amount of money that we'll need to raise from investors and bring to the table. So the SEC limits me to 35 non-accredited investors. Basically 35 non-millionaire investors. I can have as many millionaire investors as I want. No limits on that. But the people I care about is those 35 non-accredited investors. I'd like to connect as many of them as possible with each investment opportunity. So I kind of do some math and I go, okay, if I got to raise 3 million, I'll divide that by 35 and see what that gets me. Usually it's going to be a lot higher than what my minimum ends up being, because I've had a pretty good, in my experience, I get average above my my minimum investment for most times. So if I set my minimum at 25,000, I'll get a bunch of people in for 50, some in for 40, some in for 25, but also get some in for 100. So I can reach a lot higher. So, for instance, I was raising 2 million on Heritage Cove. This was 2 years ago. We were raising 2 million. We set our minimum at 25K. A whole bunch of people came in at 25K. Some came in at 50. Some came in at 35. Some came in at 100. So the more investors I get above the minimum, the more likely I am to be able to get, without breaking my number of 35 non-accredited investors, to let people in for less than the minimum. So I always try to strike a balance between, hey, I've got to get to the number, and I don't know 600 people, so I have to at some point kind of strike a balance between getting to the number that we have to get to close on the property and letting people in for as little as possible. So when I set a minimum investment, I can back it off as I get closer to, let's say we're trying to raise 3 million and we're at 2.5 million, and I'm pretty confident we're going to get there. I'll start lowering. I'll go back to those people who are like, hey man, I can't swing 50. And then I'll go, okay, well, we're going to be able to accept less. Could you do 30? What can you do? Let's see if we can get you in now. Cause we're confident we're going to hit our number. So I can accept whatever I want up to that 35 non-accredited investor numbers. So that's kind of the philosophy that goes into wherever I set my minimum investment. I'm trying to strike that middle ground.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's as much a kind of guideline for us or you as when you're raising as it is for the investor themselves, right? It's kind of just like, it has to kind of average out to this per person, but it doesn't mean that each person may necessarily have to hit that minimum.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Right. So if you are, I mean, we say this to say, if you're someone who's early in investing and you see that number of something we send out, make the call, and you're interested, but you're like, ooh, that's too much. Still reach out, still stay in contact, because that's just kind of, it's just like I said, it's just a guiding kind of bar for what we need to reach as an average. But we can't say 50K average investment because that makes it seem like, where people are like, that just makes it sound like it's got to be individually listed. So actually I did have a question. I don't know if you can answer this. It's just occurred to me. Do you know why it's 35? Why the limit's 35?
I have no idea. It seems very arbitrary to me.
It would seem like it should be a ratio to the amount of money being raised.
I don't know. It's just whatever they came up with. The SEC. It's relatively recent. I'd say in the past like 20 years, 25 years or something is when they allowed this type of exemption from the SEC's, from securities regulation. So that's a good question. Maybe I'll look it up sometime. But basically, it's frustrating at times, but it is what it is because they did at least allow non-accredited investors. Because I mean, in the like the 70s and 80s, it was like, hey, if you're not a millionaire, nobody even talks to you about this stuff because it's just not worth their time. You know what I mean?
So adding the non-accredited was what changed. You used to didn't even have it, not capping it. They didn't even.
It was like private offerings was the only exemptions was if everybody was like a multi-millionaire, New York City, Carnegie, just we're talking lots of money. That's what private offerings were. And it would be like syndicates back then, or syndicates owned the Empire State Building. You know what I mean? Like we're talking serious cash. So it's democratizing in a way. It's just, there's just restrictions that we have.
Yeah. Now, could we use things like GoFundMe to get around this? Like we can just put a name on a GoFundMe account and then that person is the investor. And it doesn't matter who we collected this money from. SEC, if you're listening, go ahead and just, take a coffee break real quick.
The answer is no. They it still counts.
Don't worry.
However many people.
If I got them to give me that money, I would just, take the money and run, as they say. Okay. Just kidding, guys. Just kidding. Just joshing over here. All right, let's move on. So say I'm going to be the investor. Might as well be. I got that 50K. This is our standard kind of. I'm assuming we're talking a standard deal. We got a value add multifamily in the B- range, C+ range. It could easily be a B+ if it was taken care of. And then here's what you're offering me. All right, so I got 50,000. ACH you this 50,000 through that really fancy portal, Invest Next, that we have. Okay, so take it from there. Tell me how. Lead me down this wonderful path.
Okay. So let's go to. You want to pull up the spreadsheet and start talking about what these numbers actually mean? We didn't tie the spreadsheet actually to this 100%, but we did for the kind of the big numbers on there, the preferred return, the IRR, and the minimum investment. We kind of plugged it into our little make-believe spreadsheet to kind of show what that means in reality to you and how it's paid out and that kind of thing. So we took a 5-year deal with an investment of 50,000.
Hold on a second. I gotta.
Yeah.
Let me switch the screens. I keep forgetting that I'm doing it by window, not screen.
Okay. So it shows your original investment there of 50,000. It's a in parentheses, so it's negative, meaning it's an outlay of cash for you. You're paying in the 50,000. And then from there, we go in through the years of the investment and the lifetime. We've planned it for 5 years. We're exiting in 5 years. We've increased the value of it for, somehow, whatever our business plan is. Sure, it's fake. Good for you. So we should add more zeros if it was fake. So original investment is $50,000. Your preferred return is based on the amount of money you have invested. So if you invest 50,000, your preferred return each year that the company owes you, 8% is $4,000 a year. So that doesn't mean that they're going to be able to pay it out to you every year. It could also mean that it's cumulative. So if, let's say, we're only paying out in the first year, $2,000, the next year it'll be 4,000 plus that leftover 2, and so on until it's all made up. In this one, this is the most meticulous business plan that was executed perfectly. So each year paid out the exact 8%, $4,000. It's amazing. So you'll see the $4,000. So your investment would pay you $4,000. $4,000. That's an 8% preferred return and a cash on cash return. So it's very rare that your preferred return is going to equal the cash on cash. Normally, there's either you didn't quite make it to your preferred, and then you hit your preferred and it keeps going. So it'll be higher over the life. Your average cash on cash return will be, first year it was only 6% cash on cash return. But we did 8% plus a little bit extra in the second year, and then it kept growing from there. So your average cash on cash may be 9% or something like that. So it's not always tied to the preferred return. It just so happens to be in this simple case that we put together.
What
questions
I just
on that?
We made a boo-boo that we didn't put cash on here.
Well, I just talked about it, so we're good. Cash on cash return is this. It's a calculation based of what your invested cash paid you that year, cash on cash return. And then if it's multiple years, average it over the years so you have an average cash on cash return.
So our cash on cash, because of how meticulously planned this one was, and there was no variation, it would still just be 8%.
It's 8% on this cash, because as long as your cash was invested, it paid you 8% in cash annually. You distributed, it could be quarterly, it could be monthly, whatever. That is the tiniest 8 I've ever seen in my life.
Wait a second. Here you go. I'm fixing it. Okay.
There we go.
So, all right, to be clear on this, if your cash on cash return is based on how much you got back over the course, how much the money you invested paid you over the course of the investment, right? Over all 5 years or over just 1 year?
Over 1 year. Cash on cash is based on 1 year. So it could be different for each year, and then you would average it to find the average cash on cash. But it's an annual calculation. So
all right. So
from there,
so normally you're going to get like 2% or something your first year. And then hopefully they can catch up with their disbursements, because I think one thing to be clear here, and this is not a question, this is a question I've had before, but as I understand it, that the 8% is a goal, and it's the preferred means the people who own the property and who the GPs, right? The people who are the
managers,
30,
the manager of the property.
Yeah. Those people are not getting paid until the investors get their 8%.
Correct.
Right?
All of the profits go directly to the investors up to that 8% each year. And if they haven't been paid it for the year before, then 8% on current year plus previous years until. So yeah, there's no 70-30 profit split until that 8% is met. Correct.
But if they don't make it, it's because there's just not the money there. I mean, if they're doing it legally, if you don't get that money, it's because the money's just not there. Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
there's no other.
Just be clear on that. Yeah. So the income has to be high enough that there's enough profit that they can pay out the preferred return, which is the goal, of course, because if the way it's built in, they want to get to that 8%. We want to get to that 8%, however you want to say that, because then what's on after that is how the property managers make money. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on. So the year 5, you see that's a huge number there. Wow, oh man. So because what that is, we broke it down here in the year 5 breakdown. You get your original investment back because we sold the property, right? You get your original investment back plus the 8% that it earned. We sold this on day 365 of year 5, so you got the full preferred return, but no more. And then you got the original investment back. Plus, we sold it for more than we bought it for. So your share of the equity, the profit, the extras, the increased equity of the increased value of the property is, in this case, is $30,000. It's a pretty good deal. I'm so glad I found it and brought it to you guys. Okay, so
absolutely.
Your total return is $100,000, which is your original money plus the extra 50 that it earned over the course of these. 5 years of $4,000 is 20 plus that 30,000 increased. So that gives us a total return of $100,000. It's pretty good. That puts your total return percentage at 200% over the entire life of the investment. And obviously, it shows that we doubled our money in 5 years, which is pretty good. So in order to find the other numbers that we work with here, the average annual return, you just take that total return, divide it by the number of years, and that gives us our average annual return, how much we returned over the year. Now, you'll notice we did not make 40% each year that was not paid out in cash of this investment. There was no 40% of 50,000 each year. It's weighted towards the back as these investments are. So that's important to note. So that's where you pay attention to that cash on cash return, or the average cash on cash return. The average cash on cash return for this deal would be 8%. So you average annual return 40, cash on cash is 8%, because that's what we actually paid out. Now the value is there, obviously, because you got it on the back end, but that's just an important thing to notice as you go forward. Now, the other this is what all the professional investors care about, is the IRR, because what we add to those is we weight how soon things happen. So that's kind of it adds time as another factor to this equation. So you'll see in our calculation here that year 5 is when all the money came back. If somehow we refinanced in the middle and pulled a big chunk of the money back in year 2 or year 3, that IRR would go up, even though, let's say, we didn't change the total return number. It was still $100,000 that you made over the 5 years. But if somehow we got money back to you sooner, your IRR would go up from that 17% to above, higher. It would just go higher depending on how much money we return faster. So the professional investors care about the IRR because that's they want to keep their money moving and moving quickly. So how quickly the money gets back is how quickly they can reinvest it. IRR, the definition of IRR is basically an analysis of cash flows over time. So you'll see your initial cash outlay of 50,000, then the incoming cash flows in the future, year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus the profit and the return. So all of those go into the cash flow calculation. So IRR is one of the best ways to measure any particular investment across all kinds of different types of investments. It could be, I'm buying a business, I'm buying, whatever it is that you're buying or investing in. That's a great way to take a number from one project to the next to kind of compare and see, hey, which of these is better.
Right. Because it's you don't want it to be just, I put this money in and then like 5 years later, I got some money back. Right. This reminds me of, on the current, well, I guess it's no longer current because they're about to come out with a new one, but FIFA 2024. I'm sorry, it's not FIFA anymore. They've separated. EA is done with that corrupt organization. So EA has their own now, and I have that one. Anyways, if you start a player, like if you create your own player and have a career, right? You can do with your money, you can make investments. And it's really funny because the investment is literally like you just give this project, it's, help a game company do sporting equipment, like maybe start a training facility, buy real estate, commercial property. There's all kinds of options. You just like give the money and then you just wait the amount of days that they specify. And then you may or may not make more money, less money, or the same money. And that's it. There's no, there's no income. There's no anything. It's just, here's $5 million. Here's $5 million for this commercial real estate. And hopefully in like, and it's real unrealistic timelines too. Like it's like 3 months. I hopefully get back my money plus some. Yeah. So there's none of this, which of course I guess if you had enough money that you just didn't want it sitting around, you could just wait for something to come back at the end and make hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, depending on the investment. But yeah, obviously people who are investing are trying to build an income. Matthias talks about that a lot. And so if you're not getting anything in return during the life of the investment, you don't have any income.
Yeah, that's interesting because that's the big delineating factor really between most real estate types, and especially the ones that we offer, and stock investing, right? So if you buy Nvidia stock, they're not a dividend paying stock. So it could be literally that you buy some Nvidia stock, wait 5 years, and then they pay you hundreds of thousands of dollars, which a lot of people did over the past 5 years because Nvidia exploded. But case in point, that's the difference. That's one of the benefits of real estate investing is that it's cash flowing real estate. So there is cash coming in. That IRR is way higher because there's the cash flows are returning to you faster. That's kind of the difference. The IRR in stocks is really, really low, especially if it's a growth stock. Even though it may really do well over time, it's very rare for a stock to explode in 5 years and be able to match because it doesn't pay you anything over as it grows. There's some dividend stocks, but and they typically don't grow in value as fast as the growth stock. So it's like you're kind of choosing: do I want pay now or do I want growth? As I talked about in a newsletter the other day.
Yeah. Hey, if you ever read it, your homework assignment awaits. Yeah. So I know. I mean, the dividends. That's always a nice little thing. You're just like, especially if we've talked about Robinhood or whatever, and you just like open it up and it's just like, oh, the quarter ended. Right. Thanks guys. But yeah, actually, stock market is one of the things that you can invest in, that my player can invest in. And now they do have, this is how sophisticated it gets. There's low risk, medium risk, and high risk investments. Depending,
like
so
index
obviously, right? Yeah, low risk, you're not going to make as much. The possibility of making is lower. But yeah, they'll take some money from you too on these investments. They'll be like, "Oh, sorry, you lost $100,000." It's like,
you're just not a good stock picker, bro.
Well, that's the thing. All I can say is I want to invest in the stock market, and it's a high risk.
Well, I know, but
I don't have any control over it. I have a person who emailed me
in the background.
Yeah, Nick Bergman is apparently my accountant. That's his name. I get an email from him. Nick's like, your investment is ready, and like he just says my investment is ready. He didn't say sorry. I just lost like $250,000 on this investment. My bad. Doesn't say that.
And he's
now, of course. I mean,
cold-hearted.
Yeah, Jordan Stone is one of the best strikers in the world in this universe. So he makes plenty of money, but yeah. So yeah, I'm 24 and a multimillionaire, so I just take it in stride. But yeah, it was funny because I started playing this game like kind of not that long before I jumped on with and we started doing this. So it was just like a immediate, just a funny comparison.
Nice.
So, I mean, we just talked through like kind of the reasons why investors, not only is it money coming in and, maybe it's income, but also it could be building towards another investment, right? So, I mean, that talk about the ultimate frozen, not frozen, sorry, that's if you did something illegal, non-liquid asset is a bunch of money in a project that you have to wait a few years to see if it makes anything. I mean, it's a way to do some things, but obviously, you know, we're
I
going for the
wouldn't
best of
recommend.
both here.
That's a relatively risky. I would not recommend that type of investing for the average Joe. It's typically like angel investors, guys who have influence and they know who's running the property or the company of whatever it is that they're doing. You know, the startup kind of thing.
Yeah, well,
That's
that's
how a
it.
lot
They're
of it
making
goes
a
for them. They
long-term
go,
investment. Yeah, yeah. And they get a bunch of
yeah.
stock in the company and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I'm sure we've all seen The Social Network, Matthias. We understand.
Okay, well, there you go.
So I just wanted to point out that I added this note that when we talk about the 70-30 after, like with something sold and whatever's left over after the 8% has been distributed, like this was my
Then it
part,
goes
however
to the
many shares I
70-30. Yep.
had. Yeah, I didn't get 70% of what was left over. That is just I say I own 3% of the property. My 3% of that 70% equaled $30,000, conveniently enough. So
That's clever. Yeah. No, that's exactly right. So that's all. It's all pro rata shares of that 70%. So every investor's dollar counts toward that 70%, mine included, as when I invest alongside the investors. So then there's the once we meet the hurdle of the 8%, we go to the 70-30 split, and the investors get 70-30 as 70 cents of every dollar on top of their 8%.
yeah, and I think, I mean, you mentioned we skipped refinancing, which would just add a step to this, which is that you would have just gotten the 50,000, probably most of the 50,000, some of the 50,000, all of the 50,000, however it played out, back. But that wouldn't have changed the ultimate numbers. It just would have made them, made there more steps, because you still
Right.
get that money back.
It could have changed. It could have been. It could have. If the sooner the IRR could go up, as we talked about earlier, the IRR could go up because you
Yeah.
got the money sooner. But and this actually is pretty reflective of my current underwriting strategy. Is that we don't really underwrite to refinances, just because the interest rate environment is quite crazy these days and has been for a couple of years. So while the plan may be to refinance and hold a property longer, just kind of keep getting cash flow, when we underwrite, we plan on uh, we we make the numbers equal if we sell in 5 years. If we were to buy, do the business plan, and sell in 5 years, that's kind of what we go with.
I was just going to see if this would update. Like, say you were able to refi in year 4, and I got back 25 of my 50.
Yeah,
This
look at
would
your
then
IRR.
change to, yeah,
It
but
changed.
wouldn't this change? Wouldn't this year
Yes,
5 disbursement change? It would go
it would
down
go
by
down by
25,000,
25.
right?
Yeah, so
Yeah. So
59.
that would be, yeah, 59.
That's real bad. You lost
There
money
we
on
go.
this deal.
So the IRR actually went down.
That is odd. We probably have
Getting
because you added another year. That's why. There's 2 year 4s in there.
oh, I was trying to break it out, but what I needed to do is just say that this is 29 is what I needed to do,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and get rid of this one. There we go. So it went up by 1%.
Yeah. There you go. See. Yeah.
That's
So
interesting.
it measures the sooner you move the capital return, the better it is. But
Sure.
before we conclude our discussion today, I did want to get into a little bit of the real world numbers that we're allowed to talk about, from Deer Run, the recent selling. Now that we've kind of talked over what it all means, I'll just go. I'm not going to mention any names or amounts or anything, but we raised in total. We raised 400,000, and our total return was 239%, which we were very proud of. Our average annual return was 30%, and our IRR ended up being 19%. So ours was very back heavy just because of all the issues. As if you know anything about Deer Run, it was our problem child for a while. So we, we weren't able to pay a lot of the cash flow up front. When we sold, we had back preferred return to pay. So we did all of that, but we're very, very happy that we achieved those numbers, which is higher than we actually underwrote, despite all the fun problems that we had with it.
So let me just put this. The IRR was what now?
IRR was 19.
And then the total return was 200 and what?
39% over the course of 5 years / 8 years, which is complicated, but we can get into that later.
Okay. Let me just, might as well put it up there. Merge it. Showing people my Excel skills here. So did you do this one? Did you measure the cash on cash?
I did not measure the cash on cash. I did, but no, it wouldn't. It's the same because it's all based on
it would be the same, but yeah, right. Never mind. I don't know why I was saying that. Yeah.
Yep. I don't have it on this spreadsheet that I have pulled up right now. It was relatively low.
So
the cash was low because we did not distribute it much. We created a bunch of equity without paying a lot of cash.
Right. So I mean, if you if you do, I shouldn't have done this here. I should move it over here, but it won't let me. Go here. There we go. Got it. Like if we had just to play this out, essentially, if it had been the 50,000, right? Like let's just say we'll do this. Let's see. We go equals this times this. You would have a very small number. Literally, pun.
Nice.
119,500 would have been the total. And then now, but of course, the annual return was lower than our hypothetical here because there were so many issues with, renovations and repairs and stuff that there wasn't a lot of distribution. So in that regard, over the 5 years, the return went down, but the internal overall went. Now, can you explain that one to me? How the IRR is supposed to be over time, but this was all equity at the end, basically?
Average annual return is based on the total number of years. So we sold with seller financing. So we're carrying the note and not getting all our cash until year 8. So we sold in year 5, not getting all the cash in year 8. So cash is still coming in for the next 3 years, even though we don't own the property more. We basically wrote a loan on it. So it's over 8 years versus the 5 years. That's why it's lower. The IRR is based on 8 years as well. It's just higher because the huge chunk of money is coming back in year 5 right now. And then in the future, there'll still be big chunks of cash coming each year. It was enough, and soon enough, we sold enough cash and sold the property soon enough that it was able to pump that IRR.
So I am correct in saying that, let's just go ahead and that would be an average return per year of 15,000 on the cash that was invested. It's 30% of the 50 I invested, or no?
I wouldn't look at it like that because that's not how a cash is paid out. Cash on cash return, average cash on cash return, how it was paid out would be that. But we have not paid. If somebody invested 50,000, we did not pay 15 grand a year. You know what I mean? So AAR is basically but that's how you would compare it to the stock market. So your stock market averages, maybe 11% on a year. If this investment returned 30% each year overall, you beat the stock market by 19%, or whatever. You can take it by individual year. So that's really how it's how you compare to the stock market, because it doesn't have necessarily each year's individual return. So if you took the first 4 years of this investment, your return was going to be really, really low, average annual return. But we made up for it with a huge return, that 239 coming towards the back.
Mm-hmm.
So we just divide that by the number of years.
Yeah. But that's the cash on cash. I mean, the average annual return is still theoretically that around that same amount. You just didn't get it each year. It's just like
Correct.
over the course of the lifetime. Yeah. So you were talking about how stocks, you put it in, you wait for like it to grow. Like it's not going to be a dividend stock. I mean, I guess that reminds me of the whole, what's that adage, the 10,000 to 1 million. You invest in a stock early enough with $10,000 that it'll, grow to 1 million if you do it right. Isn't that like a stock adage thing? If you have $10,000 in a stock, that's it's a business professor friend of mine. He did this with Amazon, by the way, the lucky bastard. And I think he did with Alibaba too. But you bet on a company like, I guess Nvidia would be a more recent example. You put $10,000 in when like they're a hot stock that seems like they're going to do something, and then they grow to a point where the amount that you have in the company
equals
is
$1 million.
Yeah,
$1 million. I got you.
Whether you sell it or not, it's just like that's the goal of like buying early. I don't know. Anyways, okay. Well, we are about that time. Is there anything else that we need to cover here? I don't know why we have total return here twice now, but whatever. I guess I should
percentage.
Just
One's a percentage.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. Well, I mean, our great and pretty Excel work notwithstanding, I think we got through most of it. Should I go back to the graphic real quick and just make sure? So we actually beat the equity multiple, by the way.
Oh, that's the one we didn't try to tie in, but
yeah. So total return was 100,000, which was 2 rather than 1.8. Yeah, exactly. So that's the only thing that we didn't cover. All right. Well, hope that was helpful, especially for all of you who are currently entertaining any real estate investment offers, but particularly ours. Hopefully that clears some things up for you. We really appreciate you guys hanging out with us, and hopefully, we all learned a little bit today, and we hope that we will have you back next week. If you don't mind and haven't done so yet, please subscribe, thumbs up, 5-star, like, heart, any of the things that are offered to you that are on the positive. Even though we have very few people actually listening through Spotify right now, we're currently at a 3-star, which makes me think that one person rated a 5 and one person rated a 1. And you know what? That's really rude because we just got started.
Somebody gave us a 1.
I guess. I mean, isn't that better than it's just a bunch of 3s? Like everyone's like, nah, mid. But anyways, if you would just, share, like, heart, subscribe, etc., we would really appreciate it. Otherwise, I am Jordan, and I will talk to you next week.
See you guys.
Messing around with jerks. My car is parked outside. I'm afraid it doesn't work. I'm looking for a partner, someone who gets things fixed. Ask yourself this question: do you want to be rich? I've got the brains, you've got the looks. Let's make lots of money. You've got the brawn, I've got the brain. Let's make lots of money. You got the brawn, you got the brain. You want money. You can tell I'm educated. I studied at the Sorbonne. Doctored in mathematics, I could have been a don. I can program a computer, choose the perfect time. If you've got the inclination, I've got the crime.